What's up YouTube? This is Next Gen Hacker 101 here to talk to you today about a sweet new tool called TracerRT. Just kidding guys, that's just a little old school awesome hacker stuff from a long time ago. Anyways, I'm here to talk to you today about Poweliks and kind of a way of extracting the DLL within the registry key. As you all know, Poweliks does not actually store a file on the file system. It actually hides within the registry, uses a run key to actually invoke itself. So every time a user logs on to the machine, the malware is run. So I've already run the malware on a machine, excuse me, taken out the data that I need, and also took a memory dump for, sorry, another video that I'm probably going to do about actually extracting the DLL out of memory. But let's do it this way. So I'm in the HKey current user, the end user data of the person who ran the malware. And software, Microsoft, Windows, current version, run. And we see here the interesting keys. So the first thing we see here is a run DLL32. Say, hey, I want you to run JavaScript and then run all this stuff. And this is actually, let me just copy it out so it's a bit easier to read. Pad. So you have a run DLL32 JavaScript, MS-HTML, run this HTML application, write this out. This is a less than hex. Script language, JScript encode, new active object, shell, reg read, and you're reading this key in the registry. And then you have another script thing there. So this is basically when a user logs in, this gets invoked, so it's going to basically read whatever's in here and do whatever is in there and run whatever is in this key. And JScript is actually not JavaScript is what one might think it is. JScript is actually a Microsoft scripting language which is used within IE, and it has its own encoding. I think it uses 3 different types of alphabet. It's very interesting looking, as you can see here. It isn't very pretty, and if you try and open it up in JavaScript, it's not gonna. If you try and decode this JavaScript, quote unquote, it's not gonna work. So the question is, well, what do we do? Well, I found on the internet. I'm going to post it on the blog. There's a decoder for JScript, and I just happen to have a copy of it. It's called SCR Deck 18 VC8, written by a Mr. Brownstone at virtualconspiracy.com. You can see it's a bit old, but you know what? It still works, so that's fine. So basically all you have to do is to invoke the script is to call the command, give it the input file. Oh, I forgot to make an input file here. So, back to my notepad. I just paste that in. And I'm going to save that on the desktop as JScript. Save. Okay. So JScript.txt, and I want to decode it as deck JScript. Okay, so hopefully if everything worked, which it should have, but we have here what looks to be some pretty sweet code. So we did that right. And now since this is a Windows world and that's just the way life is, I'm going to actually use PDF Stream Dumper because it has a JavaScript UI which allows you to kind of prettify things. And so like format JavaScript. So now I can kind of read it a bit better. And we see this open object. So this looks like it's going to this URL, this domain. So actually let's just do a quick Google search just to see if we're on the right track here. Let's just do malware. Let's pretend we don't know what we're dealing with here. And obviously then it really starts to turn up. Hey, I think this might be Poweliks. Something tells me. My analyst intuition. Anyways, moving right along, we see some PowerShell is going to probably be invoked. We see it's trying to read this reg key, and if not, it's going to do something. Well, it's going to return 0. Any errors that occur from it. And we also see it getting the temp path So this would be a hint then. You might want to go look in the temp path just to see what's going on, if there is anything there. But this is the more interesting thing. This looks promising, to say the least. And not only this tells me this is base64, but in case I wasn't 100% sure if this was base64. Whoop, got too excited. This also says convert from base64 string, so multiple things telling me this is base64. Oh, I really hope I have those equal signs. Anyways, so let me paste that into a new file and call this first base 64. Save. Okay, now because this is Windows, there is no inherent base64 encoder decoder, so I have Cygwin here, which does have this option. So let me just, in case you don't know, it's -D to decode. So I do decode and I do first, oh, in the wrong directory. Users, desktop. All right, here we go. Base64, D, first base64, decoded. Just have to give it the output file. First base64. Oh, I have to actually redirect the output. Sorry. Okay. So now hopefully that worked. And there it is. Oh, I need to load it in here. I don't know why I didn't. So let me just load the JavaScript. Obviously it's not JavaScript, but that doesn't know. Okay, so we have another script here, and again I'll just format it so it looks a bit easier. So this is our PowerShell here. And it says, oh, it's a system DLL potentially. So we might be dealing with DLL here. Get proc address. Oh, we have another base64 string here. That's useful. So we think we have to do some more base64 decoding. But the thing we see here is we see it also calling the Windows function virtual protect and call Windows process. So call Windows virtual protect, it's basically running this, so it's basically creating a space in memory for this to run, this code section. So it's invoking P, so this is what's running, which happens to be this base64 blob right here. And then this is the size that it's needed, and then this is the permissions that it's trying to give us. So actually if you Google, because Google is your friend, nobody knows everything, so virtual protect function. You see here, so this is the pointer to the code that you want to run, the size that you need to make, and this is how you want to set the permissions basically. And if you actually go to the memory protection constants, it's -x40, which is page execute read write. So basically it's saying, hey, I need you to reserve this space in memory for me to protect it, and this is what I want you to put in there, this is how big it is, and this is what I want you to set the pages to, so it can be read write. And then just so happens to then call that right in the next line. So anyways, this is looking promising. So we have our lovely jubbly base64 string here. Copy. And vi second base64. And paste that. And then just run our base64 decoding again and redirect our output to decoded second base64. Yes, okay. Awesome. So somewhere here we have our second base64. And let's just, for grins, virus total. This is the malcode analyst pack. It says, oh, it's, I don't know. Oh, it's I need to look at the decoded one. Sorry, that would help. Virus total. Okay, so we have 6 detections saying this is pretty much Poweliks and just the decoded bit here. So let's run strings to see if we see anything. Garbly-gook. Oh, we start seeing virtual alloc load library. This looks like 2 IP addresses. So again, for grins, let's just again, looks like we're on the right track here with Poweliks. So again, more IOCs. I would check my proxy logs. DLL, okay. And see if we see anything else here. Oh, we see a post, so it's definitely doing some web activity that makes sense with the IP addresses. We have some variables here for strings, probably one of those IP addresses. And we have some API calls being called. Okay, so that's interesting. But sometimes it's a little bit more interesting actually if you look at the full thing. So, what is file on here? So it just says it's data. So it's like, well, this isn't a DLL. So that's a bit interesting because obviously we saw a lot of things talking about DLL. So this isn't an executable. So let's actually run it through a hex editor. So again, Cygwin has, you can get XXD on it. Just less. Oh, okay. Interesting. Not the space. Oh, here's those IP addresses that we saw. So this looks like some weird padding. I don't know what's going on. Oh, so this is great. We didn't see that in the strings because we set the threshold to be 4. So obviously that MZ is not 4, so hence it didn't get caught. But this looks promising. So this could be our DLL. That's also a big hint that it's a DLL. But, so this is normally where you'd see like the dot resource and the dot data and all that. But this says mpress, mpress1, mpress2. So the question is, what is mpress? Probably a packer, but let's double check. Mpress. Yes. Free high-performance executable packer. Hooray! So now, if I was a reverse engineer, I could potentially unpack this or see if there's a unpacker. But let's extract this first. So what can we do? We need to try and carve this out, right? So obviously we'll just still see, we might see some more strings here, just, but anyways, so the problem is I don't actually have foremost on this machine. I do have foremost on my host machine. So let me just take my code here, which is decoded, and I'm just going to run foremost against it. Oh, I am not in the desktop. There we go. Okay. All right, let's see what foremost was able to do for me. Oh, it says, hey, I found a DLL for you. Thanks, Jesse. Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Nick. All right, so here's my DLL. Let me just copy that over to my Windows world. Paste that. All right, so let's try this again in virus total. And we see we are a bit more 100% sure that this is definitely Poweliks. So now there's a bunch of different things you could do. You could try and actually run the DLL, invoke it yourself to try and then take a memory dump and get it to see if you can find it unpacked. You can do some reverse engineering to try and unpack it yourself. We are actually going to go the second route, well, the first route, sorry, the former route, and I already have a mem dump of Poweliks running, so in the next video, I'm going to show you Poweliks infected machine's memory dump and the ways you can try and find it, extract it, and do good and fight badness on it. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, and talk to you soon.